70% of those that were released, we have about 30,000 individuals that have been released since the passage of the First Step Act.
All right, so you've released 30,000 criminals under the First Step Act. Okay? And how many of them, before you released them, did you contact any of their victims to say we're about to let this guy out?
Senator, it's my understanding that that notification happens through the U.S. Attorney's Office, but I will check into that and get back to you.
You know, we do this, we need to find out. Look, I believe in justice. I believe in treating everybody fairly. But there are people out there, I don't know why, if I make it to heaven, I'm going to ask. They're not mixed up. They're not confused. They're not sick. It's not that their mama or daddy didn't love them or not enough. They just hurt other people.
And so have you examined how many women have been sexually assaulted by biological males that BOP has placed in the prison with those women?
I have not, Senator, but I will tell you that safety and security and the placement of every individual in our custody is top of mind and the most important.
So if it's top of mind, why haven't you examined how many have been sexually assaulted? This is an obvious question. If you put a man with male genitals, with a male body in a female prison who's a convicted sex offender, it's not rocket science that there's a real risk those women are going to be victims of.
There's a saying in politics, if you leave the gates unlocked, don't act shocked when predators wander inside. Before we get into it, do the usual, tap like, share this out, and subscribe to Uncensored Headlines. Pour yourself whatever fuels your focus, coffee, water, bourbon, champagne, your call, because this story isn't something you'll want to half-watch. Stick with me to the very end, alright? Let's get into what may rank as one of the most jaw-dropping examples of federal dysfunction I've witnessed in 2 decades of covering politics. Senator Kennedy absolutely unloaded on officials from the Bureau of Prisons, and you could tell this wasn't political theater, this was raw frustration boiling over. And frankly, it was earned. Then Senator Josh Hawley took the floor and went straight for the jugular, zeroing in on Executive Order 1406. That Biden-era order is systematically shutting down privately operated federal detention facilities, and the consequences are hitting hard, especially in South Texas. Prisoners are being transported hours away from where they were held. Defense attorneys are scrambling just to meet their clients. Families are cut off from regular visitation. And entire towns are watching jobs vanish and local economies unravel in real time. Let's roll the full clip and break down exactly how this mess unfolded.
Sir.
You used to run the correction system in Oregon, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Oregon legalized drugs, is that right?
That's correct.
Oregon's about to reverse that, is that correct?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the policy proposed to reverse that.
Oh, you just ignored Oregon?
Oregon still has a very special place in my heart, sir.
Okay. You haven't read any of the articles about the reversal?
I haven't, Senator.
You don't know anything about it?
Correct, sir.
Okay. Wow. You're in charge of implementing the First Step Act, Director?
That's correct.
How many criminals have you released under the First Step Act?
So First Step Act for the overall release since the initiation of the First Step Act is, I have that exact number in front of me.
You don't know off the top of your head?
Sorry, Senator. So 70% of those that were released, we have about 30,000 individuals that have been released since the passage of the First Step Act.
All right, so you've released 30,000 criminals under the First Step Act. Okay? And how many of them, before you released them, did you contact any of their victims to say we're about to let this guy out?
Senator, it's my understanding that that notification happens through the U.S. Attorney's Office, but I will check into that and get back to you.
You don't know?
Senator, I don't.
Have you followed up with the U.S. attorneys to say, do you have a system to say, hey, we're about to let this guy out? Would we want to be sure the victims contacted?
As a former victims advocate, I share that value, that victim notification should happen. I'll check on the process.
But you don't know if it's happening?
That's correct, Senator.
Wow. Okay, of the 30,000 criminals you let free, how many of them have come back? Have committed a crime again, hurt somebody else?
So that number is one that we're still looking at as it relates to the recidivism rate for those that were released on the First Step Act.
You don't have any idea?
No, Senator.
You don't have anybody at the Bureau that can count?
I do not have that number in front of me today.
So let me get this straight. The First Step Act was passed in 2018. This is 2024. Am I right so far?
That's correct.
That's 6 years. And in 6 years, you've let 30,000 criminals go, right?
That's correct.
And you don't have the slightest idea how many of them committed another crime and came back?
I don't have that number in front of me today,
And you
sir.
run the Bureau of Prisons?
That's correct.
And how many employees do you have?
About 40,000 employees.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. General, I know you got a lot to do, but could you give us a hand here? And let's find out whether the First Step Act worked And how many, if we've released 30,000 criminals after 6 years, our director here doesn't know how many have committed another crime and come back? Can you help us?
Senator, I can certainly follow up on that issue. I will just say, in terms of work we've done in the past, for example, on compassionate release, and going to the Bureau of Prisons, this is before Director Peters was there, and asking them for data on compassionate release, because that was one of
President Biden's first acts after taking office was to issue Executive Order 14006, mandating that contracts with privately owned detention facilities not be renewed. The order is intended, quote, to decrease incarceration levels by reducing profit-based incentives to incarcerate by phasing out the federal government's reliance on privately operated criminal detention facilities. This order has created many unintended consequences, including the closing of the Willacy County Regional Detention Facility in Raymondville, Texas. The decision has had tremendous negative consequences with little to no obvious upside, forcing inmates to travel hundreds of miles round trip for court appearances, impacting the accessibility of legal counsel, and making family visits significantly more difficult. It has also caused administration issues for the prison system and harmed the local economy by eliminating these jobs. Literally every stakeholder that has a role to play in these cases is opposed to this Biden policy. That includes the defense bar, the federal public defender, the U.S. attorney, even the federal bench. All have publicly asked for this policy to be rescinded. Unfortunately, as with the open borders under Joe Biden, the Biden administration doesn't give a damn about how their woke policies actually affect South Texas or the lives of regular people. Ms. Peters, how has Executive Order 14006 impacted the Bureau of Prisons' ability to house inmates, and has it been a negative impact or a positive impact?
Thank you, Senator. So we were able to come into compliance with the executive order the end of last November, and bring in those individuals from those facilities that were closed, and we were able to safely absorb them into our current population.
Okay, that you didn't answer my question. How has it impacted the BOP, and has it been positive or negative?
Senator, I don't know that I can put it in a positive or negative category. What I can
So
say
is the defense bar and the U.S. attorney and the federal bench, are they all wrong?
I'm not familiar with their opinions and their reasons for opposing.
Okay, unfortunately, you're illustrating that the Biden administration doesn't care about South Texas if you don't even know the impact it's having on all the stakeholders. All right, let's shift to the topic Senator Lee was just asking you about, because I have to say I found your answers to him thoroughly unacceptable. The 2022 Transgender Offender Manual, issued by the Bureau of Prisons through your predecessors, reverted back to the Obama administration's initial designation and housing programming assignments. Notably, biological sex at birth is no longer the controlling determinant. Right now today, how many biological males are housed in female prisons under BOP?
Senator, I don't have those numbers in front of me today.
Why don't
but
you?
We could look at them and get back to you.
Why don't you?
I just don't have them top of
Did you know you were going to be asked that today?
No, Senator.
Oh, you didn't. Have you been asked that before?
On the record, Senator?
Yes.
I don't recall.
You were asked a year ago in writing, and you failed to answer it in writing. You knew damn well you're going to be asked it today, but you don't want to answer it. Senator Lee asked, why don't you report the numbers? You don't report the numbers because you don't want people to know the numbers. So the fact that you sit there and say, I don't know, he said 1,300. Is that number in the ballpark?
1,300 as it relates to which category, Senator?
Biological males housed in female prisons.
No, that would be a much larger number.
Which is a larger number?
So the number of individuals who even identify as transgender at the Federal Bureau of Prisons is around 1,700. And the number of individuals that are housed in institutions not conforming with their biological sex are very low.
Very low. Are we talking 100? Are we talking 10?
We will look at the numbers. We're talking less than 10.
So your testimony here, I just want to understand, your testimony here today is there are fewer than 10 biological males, human beings that were born male, who are housed in female prisons. Is that your testimony?
That is my understanding, and I will confirm that and get back to you.
Okay. Of the 1,700 prisoners you referenced, how many of them are convicted sex offenders?
I do not know the answer to that, Senator.
Are you aware that Great Britain's numbers, according to a January 2022 report, is the proportion of male-born transgender offenders who are sex offenders in the UK prison system is roughly 60%, significantly higher than the 18% of the general population? Are those numbers consistent with the American numbers?
Director Peters walked into that hearing completely unprepared to answer even the simplest questions about the First Step Act, a law that's been in effect for 6 years. Roughly 30,000 inmates were released under it, yet the head of the Bureau of Prisons couldn't tell Congress how many committed new crimes, how many victims were notified, or whether the program is achieving its goals at all. When you oversee an agency of 40,000 employees and still can't provide basic numbers, that's not a technical failure. That's institutional dysfunction. Senator Kennedy nailed it when he said this is exactly why public confidence in government keeps collapsing. This isn't abstract policy, it's about community safety, victims' rights, and whether these decisions made the country safer or more dangerous. And on those questions, the administration's top prison official had nothing to offer. It was genuinely staggering to watch. Then Senator Josh Hawley took his turn and zeroed in on Executive Order 146. That order has been steadily dismantling privately operated federal detention facilities, and the consequences have been brutal, especially in South Texas. Prisoners are being relocated hundreds of miles away. Defense attorneys can't reliably meet with clients. Families are effectively cut off from visitation. And towns that depended on those facilities are hemorrhaging jobs and economic stability. According to Hawley, everyone on the ground, public defenders, federal prosecutors, even judges, has been pleading with the White House to reconsider. But somehow, none of that urgency seems to have reached Director Peters. Either she never saw it, or she chose to ignore it. Neither explanation inspires confidence. What it does reveal is how casually this administration treats the Americans caught in the crossfire of its policies, and just when it seemed the hearing couldn't get worse, Hawley pressed her on the 2022 transgender inmate guidance. Under current policy, biological sex is no longer the primary determinant for prison placement. So he asked the most basic, unavoidable questions. How many biological males are housed in women's prisons? She didn't know. How many of them are sex offenders? No answer. How many female inmates have been assaulted as a result? Again, nothing. The only figure she could cite was that roughly 1,700 inmates identify as transgender, and fewer than 10 are housed based on gender identity rather than biological sex. Even that number, she admitted, wasn't fully verified. If you don't know who is housed where, or who is being harmed, you're not managing a correctional system. You're gambling with people's lives. This hearing made one thing painfully obvious: the Biden administration isn't just careless. It's willfully disconnected from the real-world impact of its own decisions. And while officials deflect and delay, everyday Americans are left dealing with the consequences. That's exactly why Uncensored Headlines exists, so stay with us.